He's going to be here, you know. Gabe Kaplan.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know.
Because one of the guys who used to write notes, said bring a note, he would sign it Epstein's mother. We're showing our age, gentlemen.
Okay, I hope everybody who were involved in football enjoyed the Super Bowl.
Oh, who won?
I don't know.
Los Angeles.
I think the Rams won.
The Rams, right.
Yeah, they at the end of the they were ahead like 3 points, and at the end there they just waited out the clock, from what I understand. I wasn't watching.
Super. You have to have the soup. You have to subscribe to it.
No.
How do you get the soup?
It was on regular channel.
Probably NBC.
NBC.
Probably NBC.
We're in the middle. We're about to find out.
Okay, I'm going to start our sponsors, and then we'll get on to the Daf. Okay, good morning. Good morning. Okay. Year of Learning by Sue and Arnie Gerlich in memory of Malcolm Perlman and Philip Mann and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, and Rivka Pro Rosner bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends. In memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edel Bas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gidler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gidler, Sharon and Bad Yishai. Children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova, Bad Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bar Asher. Friends of Nina Mornester, Nechama Asna Bad Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezecher Nishmat, Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. A month of learning by Carol and Josh Sanborn. In memory of her father, Yehoshua Shia ben Moshe Yehuda Cohen, David and Sharon Carpel. In memory of his father, Zeb Moshe ben Shlomo Yaakov. B. Pizer, in memory of her mother, Razel Bat Shammai. The children of Grace and Julius Rosenzweig, Barbara Rottenberg, Ann Berezin, Judy Friedman, and Alan Rosenzweig, in honor of Rose Greenberg Haskell's special birthday. Malin Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega Bas Yaakov. B. Pizer, again, in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. We have a week of learning by Tema Harrisburg, in memory of her husband, Suriel ben Rachmiel Halevi, by Sharon and Jerry Ness, in honor of Roz Greenberg Haskell's special birthday. By Mark Linder, in memory of his nephew, a soldier in the IDF who died in Lebanon, Eretz Paul ben Sirlis. By Jack Kaufman, in memory of his wife, Dvorah Necha Bas Mordechai Tzvi. Today being the 14th. Okay. Aaron Meyerhoff, a day of learning in memory of his father, Alter Chaim ben Yehuda. May Shemas have an Aliyah, Crank Rafir Velti Yeshua Shem Matzliah, and the Chol B'nai Israel, a good Gabenshki. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay.
We're on the last line in Dalit on the day.
Okay. All right, we left us, so to speak, with a little hanging a little bit,
Wrong corpse.
okay? All right, just to review this, that Rav Baive Bar Abaye used to have a interaction with the Malach HaMavis, okay? And Malach HaMavis sent his messenger, and the messenger brought the wrong woman, okay? Right name, wrong profession, okay? In the sense, okay? So the question was, well, what about bringing her back? Okay, that's how the Gemara said. Okay, and the response was, Amar le ho'ilva aitaite laho, okay, lahavi leminayim. Basically, you brought her here, we're going to keep her in the count, right? So Rabbi Baive asks an interesting question. Elahechi yachaltla. Okay, right, and it's not clear to me, as I looked at this a second time, okay, was he saying, how can you keep her in the account?
How did you take in the first place?
Well, I'm going to come back to that, okay? Okay, in other words, how is it possible that you could, or how could you bring her back? Why is it that you could keep her? In other words, in essence, having chosen the wrong person, okay? You made her die before her appointed time. I'm going to use appointed time in parentheses, okay? In her proper time, okay? And therefore, the question is that possible? Is that appropriate? Okay. Marvin, were you able to find your Gemara at all? Not yet? Okay.
It's almost like a joke.
Okay, well,
She says, how could you take her when it wasn't her turn?
okay, that's exactly
Right.
Rashi's
It's not
point,
give her back, it's how can you take her in the first place?
right? Okay. All right, so we're picking up as said on Daled Amud Beis, the last line. If you're using Art Scroll, it is going to be
4B3.
4B3. Right? Right. You have one to use, Marvin?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So Gemara picks up, all right? Havas Nikita mit Ara Biada. The Malach HaMavis is explaining to Rabbi Rav Bivai the following situation. What was the woman doing? Okay, and when we talked about it yesterday, we saw there were two explanations that we liked. Ruvain's explanation that Michael supported him with was the same, was that her mazal changed. Okay, and with the change of mazal, okay, all right, therefore that indicated a change in her life status or possible life status. Okay, and okay, and we put that back to okay, to what was said earlier. I think it was by Abaye, right? That made some reference to it. Okay, so what happens? What was this woman doing? Okay, Havet Makit mit Ara Biyada. She was holding one translation wants to call it the poker for the fire, the other wants to call it a shovel for a fire, but she was holding an instrument by which you would, okay, and we all know, if in some experience, at least theoretically, if not practically, if we ever used a fireplace, that the edge of that instrument certainly is going to have, since it's made of metal, it's going to, okay, be hot, right? So she was holding this item, Vahavat Kasharga. And what was she doing at the same time? And she was lighting, okay, all right, Umachraya Tanura. And she was doing something else while she was lighting, okay, and she was sweeping out or cleaning out the oven at the same time. And what did she do, right? Shakalta, she took the shovel of the poker. Va'anchata agaba dekara, and she put it down and rested it on her foot. Okay? Kadcha, at that point she scalded her foot, right? Ve'itra mazala, and this impaired or suffered her mazal. Okay? Right? Right? Va'aitaita, and I could take her. Right? So that's the answer. Okay, so that explanation about mazal, okay, is justified particularly.
If a person lives or dies based on mazal,
Yeah, we said that now, we said that. We had someone live 94 and somebody died at 40. They were both exactly the same level of tzidkus.
no, but it has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
The mazal comes,
All right,
they make a reckoning when you're born already.
okay. I'm going to respond that if we saw earlier, remember that Abaye had made this statement. Okay, was it one's merit or was it one's mazal? And mazal here, I'm going to suggest, is not what we normally think of luck or fortune.
It's a guardian angel.
It's the point of either astrology, how the stars were, or the point, so that would be one option, because remember, that was an important component of the general society. Babylonian society, Jewish society was that concept. Okay, but in particular, let's focus on the fact that each person had their guardian angel. Each nation had their guardian angel. Okay, and that also was part of one's quote mazal. Okay. Yes, Alan.
Anytime a person is injured, that they're liable to die before their time.
It's risky, yeah. That's why what Gemara had said in Halacha brings, you can't put yourself in a dangerous situation.
Let's think of the fact that we saw in the Gemara. I'm just going to use the Gemara as example. Okay, remember it said earlier that when a person loses a loved one, what those initial days, it's like a sword over their head or over their parts, okay? And then later days, this, in other words, in a life-threatening, when a life-threatening situation can occur, okay? Therefore, you don't put yourself in a life-threatening situation, but other situations.
But she broke her leg. It's not necessarily a life-threatening situation.
She should have been acting more carefully.
She should have, but this is still not a life-threatening situation.
Well, you don't, okay, we don't know, it's just the Gemara's explanation is the Malach HaMavis's argument. Okay, we might not define that, okay, as life-threatening, but it's enough of a situation that it removes whatever, quote, protection she might have had. We saw that, again, seeing the Gemara's example previously, we saw that one of the Rebbeim, one of the sages, so long as he was learning, okay, there too, the Malach HaMavis couldn't take him, okay? So in other words, there were certain kinds of things that, so to speak, again in quotes, protected the person from, okay? All right, okay, so let's continue now. Okay, guys, let's.
The Gemara itself is
This is right, so let's go on top of Hey Amud Aleph, right? So we said what happened, she rested it, and as a result, her mazal, her, whether we want to call that her protecting angel, the stars, the astrology, whatever it is, right? Amarle Rabbavai Bar Abaye. Okay, so he's going to ask the question underlying which we're all really asking, right? It lechu reshuta leme'abad hachi. Do you really have permission to do that? He challenges the Malach HaMavis, right? Amarle, okay? And he further states, V'lo kativ v'yesh nispa below mishpat. Is it possible that there's situations where, okay, a person dies without some sort of justice, right? Amar le, he says then v'haktiv, dor halech v'dor ba. But isn't it also written one generation comes and another generation goes, implying that there is a, so to speak, allotted time, okay, in life for people and for generations and for leaders. And we saw that again earlier in the Gemara when there was a question of one of the sages being taken. Why? Because another sage was, quote, scheduled to take over as Rosh Yeshiva. Okay, so that concept is there. Okay, is there. All right. Amar. Okay, so what did he respond? Dar'ina. Okay. Laho ana. So Malach HaMavis responds, I'm going to translate this as I shepherd their souls. Okay, temporarily, he says, ad demalu laho ladara, until I lead them to Dara, which was the angel supposedly in charge of souls up in him. Vahadar mashlimna, okay, le ledoma, and then I bring them till they reach that point, okay, and I pass them over to Duma, who is that angel. Amarle sof sof, shania ma'avadet. Okay, so again, he asks here too. So ultimately, okay, what do you do then with the, so to speak, leftover years? Okay, in other words, if somebody died early in life and they were allotted a different amount, those extra years, okay, what's done with them? Amar, he says, "Ikatzurba mirabanan, the ma'avir b'mile." If there is a rabbinic student, in other words, a sage, and he is, I'm going to translate this, forgiving, overlooking insults. In other words, words don't affect him. He's, all right? Mosifna laho le vahavye chalufe. Okay, I added to his, and he replaces those years for that person.
And performs whatever task that
Okay,
person was.
well, it
allotted.
could be task, it could be given, he's given the, could be, in other words, he's given the opportunity to fulfill for the Kadosh Baruch Hu those tasks in life. Ideally, that would have been designated for that person.
But doesn't that other individual have a lot of time as well that's been changed?
Right, it's been changed.
There's some measures that I think it was, Adam Arishon gave
Exactly,
Amelech
right,
extra years.
exactly,
Probably was supposed to.
right, right, so to speak. Rabbi Yochanan, Kimate, okay, let's go on. Yes, Sid, yes.
Not here.
I don't think we're going to find it here. Okay. I don't think we're going to find it here. However, we will see the phrase utilized in the Gemara soon. Okay? All right? And that would be a very appropriate question to ask when we see that. Rabbi Yochanan Kimati Lahaikra, when Rabbi Yochanan reached the following pasuk, Bachay, he would cry. V'tesiteni bo leva'alo chinam. Right, that's our pasuk. Art Scroll wanted us to translate this. Right, I'm just looking. And you incited me against him to destroy him for no reason. Okay, what about that pasuk? Eved sherabo mesitin lo v'niset. Okay, so again, he says, is there any, in that situation again, a master for whom his servant has incited, rebelled? Is there, right? Takana yeshlo, is there any remedy? Okay, Rabbi Yochanan Kimati lahai kra. Okay, Bachay. When Rabbi Yochanan came to that verse, he cries, Hein b'kedusha tov lo ya'amin. Okay, again, right? Behold, he cannot have any faith even in his holy ones. Right? I b'kedusha tov lo ya'amin. B'man ya'amin. If in his holiness or holy acts, holy ones. He can't believe. Who can he believe? Right? So the Gemara continues to try to answer. Yom echad have ka'azel ba'orcha. One day, it was Rabbi Yochanan who was going along the road. Chazi lahalu gavra, dahave mankit ta'ane. Okay, he saw a particular person who was picking figs. What was he gathering? Shavik hanach demato. Okay, he left those that were ripened. V'shakil hanach delomato. And he harvested those that were not ripened, hadn't reached their proper time. Amar lehi, and he said to him, Rabbi Yochanan, to the gentleman, Lav hani ma'alin tfei, aren't these other ones better? Okay, aren't they right? Amar lehi, he said to him, and notice the answer. Hani la'urcha ba'inen laho. Hani nitran. Okay, these that are suitable for the trip, okay, all right, what about them? Okay, I don't want to use the word protect, keep, preserve, right? Vahani lo natran. And these won't be
The
preserved.
ripe ones will rot.
They're going to, exactly. The ripe ones, if they're ripe now, by the time he brings them on the trip, they're going to turn bad. But if he
unripe
picks
ones will rot.
unripe ones as they go, eventually they will ripen and then they'll be usable. Okay.
So he was acting sense.
Okay. Rahani Lonatan. Amar Hainu Dichtiv. Why? This is why it's written. Hein b'kedushav lo ya'amin. And these, the holy ones, are not believed. Aini, is that really the case? Vahahu Talmida. Dahava b'shivavutai. The Rabbi Alexandrai. But there was a certain Talmud who was in the neighborhood of Rabbi Alexandrai. Ushchiv adazutar. And he passed away when he was young. Va'amar, and he says, Ibai hai mirabanan havit chai. Okay? In other words, if it was necessary, if he was worthy, so to speak, as a student, he would have lived longer, right? Ve'im ita. And if that's the case, Dilma mehan b'kedushatav lo ya'amin haba. Perhaps then, in this case, we understand why he died young, because he wouldn't have continued to be an appropriate Talmud. He would have done what?
Isn't a very ontological explanation? You kind of say, well, he died young because he would have gone off.
Prevented him from going off the deck. That's all right. Yes, Avi, go on. So what's the question?
It's like he died young because he died young because he would have been a criminal 10 years from now. How do you know? I mean, that's before the fact.
Okay, all right. So that is the psychological question. Michael wants to share one thought, and I'll give you a different.
We all do this. We're grappling with the inexplicable.
Right.
And so what people are doing is they're trying to find remuzim and psukim that sort of justify. The Gemara all through Shas, Tzaddik Baralo, Russia V'Tovlo. So this is not dissimilar. How come some people die prematurely? Looks like the tremendous tzaddikim. So Rashi says over here that there are occasions where death is a blessing, because next year you're going to be tempted to do something horrible, and God is rewarding you for your righteousness thus far by removing you before you can do that horrible thing.
Okay.
It's just one way of explaining the Tzaddik Barelo, and we don't have to take these literally and consider them satisfactory for us, because we're still grappling with the same questions.
That's something I grapple with
All the time.
Why do men die before their wives? Because they want to.
Alan wanted to share something, and then I'll come back.
I just remember reading about the Spanish Inquisition, and they were discussing some of the despicable things that were done And one of the things that they discussed is particularly despicable was that they would torture Jews until they would finally agree to become Christians, at which point they would promptly kill them, because now that they've accepted
They were
Christianity, they know that they would go back to Yiddishkeit eventually, so they might as well kill them now so they'll go straight to heaven. And, this is exactly the same thing in reverse. And
Right.
if that was despicable, I
Problematic.
things to say about this.
Okay, problematic. Okay, I'm going to suggest, and that's not to dispel Mordecai's explanation, which in one perspective is right, nor is it to take away from your question, Avi. But I'm going to simply suggest that the Gemara and Chazal had a similar issue and a similar problem. Because if we look now and continue in the Gemara, what does the Gemara gives as an answer? Hahu, namely that particular student, Mevayed b'rabotav hava. He was a rebellious student. In other words, his current behavior indicated that in the future there would be problems with him. Okay, and as a result, the Chachamim then came to the rationalization in order to prevent worse behavior, do something. Now, the only example I could give you, Avi, which is not the best, yes, Reuben.
So God said to Yishmael, I'm going to save you now, even though you're going to kill Jews later on. But right now you're a tzaddik, and I judge you right now. And that's this example. That student may have been rebellious, so he may have done worse later on. But right now he also had some sin,
Some flaw.
Some
flaw
pluses.
there would have been a right to judge him.
Right, I understand. Right.
That's also
The
why we
Basher-
don't
that-
put
that's
Basher
his fault.
Husham,
I mean, Basher Husham.
Yeah,
and that's the theory behind Makam Sakana.
yeah, okay.
Every one of us at one point or another has almost certainly done something that us this Chayiv Misutei Shemayim.
Well, all right,
So if
let's
you
not
put
go that
yourself
far
at
yet.
risk,
Okay.
You're likely to
All right.
have a kiyum of that punishment.
I guess-
You don't put yourself at
all right.
risk, you
Okay,
slide.
I just want
Make
to
it
clarify,
60.
all right, okay. I think we're going a little too theology, but I do want to go into one example, Avi, that one might relate. Avi, are you there? Okay, I couldn't see it. Okay, I just want to give one practical example. Okay, I have a son that is involved in law enforcement. And law enforcement tells us, based on key testimony and other things, when you have, for example, teenagers that are caught doing, let's say, certain things to animals, torturing animals and certain other things, okay? And when it's not addressed, law enforcement sources point out clearly that they will eventually go on to greater and more serious crimes. Okay? So I'm using that example for the moment to help me understand what the Gemara is telling me here, that this particular student already showed aspects of problems, behaviors, okay? And then if we want to go into the theological, that's comfortable for those with that can handle that perspective. All right, let's come back now to the Gemara. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan kimate lahai kra. Again, Rabbi Yochanan, when he came to this pasuk, he cries, okay, v'kiravti alechem lemishpat, vayiti ed memaher, v'mechashvim, v'menafim, v'benishvaim, v'sheker, v'oshkei schar sachir. Okay, so again, I use art scroll, and I will draw near to you from the judgment. I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, against those who swear falsely, and against those who extort the wage of the worker. Okay, so that's our pasuk. Eved sherabo mikarvo leduno, says the Gemara. a servant whose master brings him closer to him for justice, umimaher la'aido, and is prepared to bring witness against him. Takana yeshlo, does he have any remedy? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he says as follows, right? Ben Zakkai, okay. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Oy lanu sheshakal aleinu hakatuv kalot kechamurot. Woe, he says, for us where they weigh out and they determine the leniencies like stringencies. Amar Reish Lakish, kol mita dino shel ger, one who subverts or distorts justice for a convert, ke'ilu mateh dino shel mala. It's as if he distorts, again, justice of heaven in heaven. Shnei amar umate ger, citing that pasuk, part of the pasuk really. Umate ktiv, when it says distorts, okay, that's what it means. Umati, in other words,
it's distorting me.
okay, it's as if Hashem is saying that kind of activity, since the person converted the Shem Shamayim, we hope, therefore it's as if Shamayim's name itself is being distorted. Okay. All right, Amar Rabbi Chanina bar Papa. Kolo said davar umitcharet bo, one who does something and regrets it. Mochlin lo miyad, is given forgiveness immediately. Shnei amar v'lo yiruni, not be seen. Ha yiruni, therefore if he's seen, in other words, mochlin lahem miyad, he is given kapara atonement immediately. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan, lahai krabachi. When he came to the following pasuk, he cried, Ki et kol ma'aseh Elohim yavi b'mishpat al kol ne'elam. Again, another pasuk. Once more, the question, Eved shirabo shokelo shigegot kizdonot. The servant whose master weighs out his errors that were done inappropriately, as if they are done with intent. Okay. Takana yeshlo, does he have any remedy? Mai al kol ne'alam, what does it mean then on that which was missing or hidden? Amar Rav, says Rav, ze hahoreg kina b'fnei chavero v'nim asba. It's like somebody who kills an insect, a lice, okay, and before his friend, and that's disgusting to the friend. Okay, squashes it, whatever. All right. Ushmuel amar Shmuel, ze harak b'fnei chavero v'nimas, or somebody who spits, okay, in front of somebody else, and that's disgusting to them. Okay. So my im tov imra. So what do we mean then when we says with or if it's good or bad? Amrei debe Rabbi Yanai, and they said in the Academy of Rabbi Yanai, Ze hanotein stakala ani b'farhesi. It's someone who gives charity to the poor in a public manner. Okay, so what happens? Ki had the Rabbi Yanai, like in the case where Rabbi Yanai, Chaze lahahu gavra, he saw a certain person, the kayahiv zuzela ani b'farhesia, that he gave money to a poor person publicly. Amarle, and Rabbi, right? Yanai said to the individual, Mutav de lo yahavit le mehashta de yahavit le v'kasafte. Better that you should not have given it to him than given it to him and embarrass him in that manner. Okay, that's why we have the stories of the fact that some of them used to have the money and they would carry it in a sack or something over their back, so the poor would not be embarrassed. Okay, the Bei Rabbi Shila in the Academy of Rabbi Shila Amrei, they said, it's like the example of a person who gives a woman charity in private. Why? Because it leads to suspicions, okay, of that she was being given money for other purposes. Okay, Rava Amar. Okay, and Rava says, Zeh ha'mishager le'ishto basar she'ino mechutach ba'arvei Shabbatot. Or it's like the person who sends his wife some meat, okay, which has not been trabered, okay, that does not have the sciatic nerve removed, okay, because it's possible the wife might not be an expert enough to recognize that that's the case, okay, and then she's going to cook that meat, etc., etc. That's a problematic. Vaharava Meshager. But look, says the Gemara, Rava himself used to send his own wife meat that hadn't been trabered yet. Okay? Shani bat Rav Chista, the Kimla Begova de Bekia. Rav, he says, no, Rava's wife was unique. She was special because as the daughter of Rav Chista, she was an expert.
She was a mashgicha.
Okay. Okay, she was able to recognize the meat and be able to tell whether it had been trabered or not. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan kimati lahaikra. When Rabbi Yochanan came to the following pasuk, he cried, "V'hayaki timtzenu oto raot rabot v'tzarot." Okay, again the pasuk you find terrible multiple terrible things that bring tsaros. Avad, right? Right. So Eved shirabo mamtzilo raot v'tzarot. A servant whose master, okay, sees that there are multiple problems and issues and troubles. Takana yeslot, is there any remedy? Mai raot v'tzarot. What do we mean when we say, okay, terrible things and problems? Amar Rav raot. We're talking about bad things that bring about, okay, multiple problems, okay, one to another. For example, he says, Kigon zibura va'akrava, as in the case of a person who gets stung by a hornet and stung by a scorpion. The hornet's remedy is the fact that he has to be treated with some cold item. The scorpion's remedy is he has to be treated with something hot. He can't do both at the same time, okay? So one leads to another. One bad thing, multiple bad things leading to multiple problems. That's the example. Ushmuel Amar Shmuel, or another example, says Shmuel, in terms of financial issues, is one who provides funding for a per person at the time when they are in significant need. Okay, right? Amar Rava says Rava, Hainu da Amre Inshe. This is what people say. Zuza la lala. Lo shachicha, latlita shachiach. Okay, namely in this case, when you give money, okay, money for produce, in other words, for foodstuffs, okay, maybe that was not so accessible. But money for hanging, in other words, putting the person giving them pressure now that they have to repay that money. And what are they going to do in all of that additional, that's tsaros, okay? They thought not having enough money for food was problematic. Now having the weight of the debt and all of those things, that simply increases their tsaros and their problems. Another pasuk. V'chara api bo b'yom hahu v'azavtim v'histarti panai mehem. Emphasis on Hashem removing his protection, his face from them. Amar Rav Badalia Bar Yomi. Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Kol she'eno behester panim, eno mehem. Okay, how do we basically accept it? I liked what I wanted to just cite Art Scroll here in particular. Okay, they want to translate it, anyone who is not subject to punishment, and he will be for consumption. Okay, and the question of Hashem hiding his face. Okay, is that person going to be suffer? A no him is not one of the children of Israel. I had a hard time with this particular piece. Okay, I wanted to just change it a little bit. Kol she'eino behester panim. I wanted to say one who is not within Hashem's protection. In other words, they've removed themselves from the possibility of Hashem's protection. A no mayhem is therefore not going to be included under the protection of Bnei Yisrael. Okay, kol she'eino be, right? Kol she'eino bevahaya le'echol. Okay, we've got a no mayhem. And there's again another little difference there. All right, let's go on. A no mayhem. Amrule Rabban the Rabba. Rabbi said to Rabbi, Mar lo behester panim ite. So again, they asked him, okay, is the master not within the, that's why I like hester panim here, away from the protection of Hashem? V'lo bahaya le'echol ite. And isn't he protected then to have foodstuffs, to have what he needs to eat? Amarlo, right? All right. Mi yida'ito kama mishadarna b'tzina bishavur malka. So we're going to get into the story, okay? And I want to lead it by this, okay? They challenged Rava. They say, you seem to be so well off. Doesn't that seem to imply that you have Hashem's protection and that safeguards you from the authorities, the political authorities? And what does he answer them? Look at as the following. He says to them, Mi yediyato kama mishadarna b'tzina beishabur amalka. Is it possible for you to even know or imagine how much I send as bribes, really, to the household of the king Shapur? Afilu hachi yahavu be rabbanan enayu. Even with such, the rabbis looked upon him suspiciously. Okay?
That's only plus only fools pay taxes.
Well, I don't know about that. The rabbis in certain communities were exempt from taxes. Okay? Adahachi, nevertheless, says the Gemara, Shadur debe Shabur Malka v'garbuhu. Nevertheless, the king's authorities went and they took him and they imprisoned him. Okay? They arrested him in the hopes of what? Getting more money. Okay? Let's keep in mind here Pidyon Shavuyim as the mitzvah. Okay? We know that that was a classic issue at times and famously with Rabbi Gershon of Mayan. Okay, Rabbi, right? So Amar, he says, Hainu Detanya, this is what was taught. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he says, Kol makom shenatnu chachamim inehem omita aoni. Any place where the sages gave somebody the eye, so to speak, okay, could result in death or poverty, right? And we have midrashim on that too, by the way, with regards to ani kames, exactly. All right. Va'anochi haster aster panai b'yom ha'u. And we have the pasuk that says, Hashem says, I will hide my face. In other words, I won't give my protection. Okay, in that situation. Amar Rava, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Afal pi shehistarti panai mehem bechalom adaberbo. Even though I, in other words, hide my face from them, I don't give them my protection, I will still communicate with them. Okay? Through other means. Rav Yosef Amar, Yadon netuya aleinu shene Amar. That means that his hand is still extended towards us. In other words, we can pray to Hashem and he will at least,
Say if it's with that.
all right? Okay. Ubetzel yadi kasiticha. Okay, in the shade of my hand, you're covered. In other words, he doesn't give his full attention, but it doesn't mean he totally looks the other way. Very important piece in Gemara, especially if you're looking at material from the Holocaust, by the way. Okay? Rabbi Yoshua, right? Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya, Havakai be Kezar. Okay, so we have a situation where Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya was there in the house of the Caesar. Might not have been in other words, the local authority. Okay, procurator, right, would be, right? Yeah. Ichve le ahu epikurosa. Okay, others say mina, okay, in the language. All right, so two lashon, right? So it was either a Epicurus or a sectarian gestured something to Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya. What did he gesture? Ama da ahadrinu mare la'ape mine. Okay, you are the nation whose master has turned his face.
Theology.
Exactly. Who's turned his face away from you. Okay, so therefore, in other words, it was the church's attitude of replacement theology, that the Christians replaced the Jews as the chosen people. Okay, that was the concept. That's why censors could have put in Apikoros here as opposed to min. Exactly. So sensitivity to the lashon of the Gemara, okay, is also important here. Okay, to understand the context. What did Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya do? Achvei le yadu netuya aleinu. He gestured to him that his hand, Hashem's hand, is still over us, extended towards us. Amar le kezar le Rabbi Yoshua, and the Caesar, the procurator, saw what was going on there, and he apparently responded, Mai achvele, what did he gesture to you? Okay, and he told him, Rabbi Yoshua, Amada adrinhu mare la'ape mine, that you are the nation whose master turned his face against you. Va'ana machavina le yado netuya aleinu, and I gestured and showed to him that his hand is still extended over us. Amrule lahahu mina, and notice here they did use the phrase mean instead of Epicurus. That particular person, my achavit le. What did you? So they asked him now, what did you gesture to him? Amad adrinu mare mine. Okay, you're the nation whose master turned his face against him. Umay achvelach, and what did he gesture to you? Lo yadana. I don't know. Okay, whether he says I don't know or I didn't accept it.
No, he means I'm, because the next.
He wouldn't
line,
answer.
Anyway,
You don't
Amru,
even know what's going on and you're doing this. in
okay,
front of me.
Amru, Gavra de lo yada, mai machvule b'mechog, yachve kame malka. Okay, you who say you don't know what he is gesturing or showing to you. Okay, you're doing this all in front of the procurator. Isn't that more than just chutzpah? Okay, kind of thing. For all you know, you could have been signaling him, let's join together in a rebellion against the procurator. Okay? What did they do? Afkuhu v'katluhu. They took him out and they did away with him. Okay? Kikan nechanafshe, the Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya. And so the Gemara goes on and tells us when Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya was close to death. Okay, what happened? Amrule Rabbanan. The other sages said to him, Mai tahavu alan bepikorsurosin. What are we going to do? In other words, who do we have that can respond and challenge? Okay, in other words, who can defend us against these other, okay, the attacks of the meaning. Okay, Amar lehem, and he said to them, Avda etza mibanim nisricha chachmatam. Okay, that ultimately their wise sages will pass and they will lose their wisdom. Kevan she'ada etza mibanim nisricha chachmatan shel umot ha'olam. That ultimately their sages that will challenge, okay, also will be lost from the world. Okay, v'ibayat ema mahacha, and if you want, we might say it from here as follows: Vayomer nas'a v'neilcha ve'elcha lenegdecha. I will say that they traveled, etc., against you. Okay, another example. Rabbi Ila havasalik bedarga debe Rabba bar Shila. A situation is described where Rabbi Ila was ascending the stairs in the house of Rabba bar Shila. Shame lianuka dahava kakari. And he heard a child, okay, reciting the following pasuk: Kihine yotzer harim uvore ruach umagid la'adam ma sheyichtu. Okay, citing that pasuk. All right, Amar. So he says, Eved shirabo magid lo ma sicho takana yesh lo. A servant where the master tells him what is his
See, he spoke,
his
What he has to
discourse,
say.
what
What
his
he-
discourse is, right?
what he spoke.
Yeah. What is remedy? Mai masicho. What do we mean by here? His conversation, his discourse. Amar Rav, says Rav, afilu sicha yetera, shebein ish leishto megidin lo laadam b'shat mita. Okay, even the private bedtime, so to speak, conversation between a husband and his wife he's reminded of that conversation before his passing. In other words, at his din in Cheshbon. Aini, is that really the case? He says, Rav, now we got another story. Vaha, but what about the following? Rav Kahana, Havagage Tute Puria de Rav. Rav Kahana hid himself was lying under the bed, okay, of Rav. Vishame desach v'tzachak va'asat tzarchav. And he heard Rav conversing and
Telling a joke to his
joking
wife,
with his wife and doing his husbandly duties.
and he started laughing under the bed.
Who, Rav Papa? No, I don't think so. That was not the shot that I got. Okay? All right? Amar, he said, okay, Dame Puya de Rav, Kiman de lo ta'im le tavshila. Okay, so Rav Papa then says out loud, okay, does it seem like Rav is acting as a case as he's never had a good meal, a cooked meal? In other words, the intimate conversation between him and his wife, okay, that was the issue. Okay, Amar le kahana, puklav or achara, get out of here, he tells him. Okay, this is, by the way, not the only story in the Gemara.
This is not the only
Right.
Situation.
Story appears elsewhere.
Right, okay. Lo kasha, it's not a problem. Kan de tzarich levetzuye. In one case, it's where he needs to appease his wife. Vahad de lo tzarich levetzuye. But here, it's another case where he doesn't have to appease his wife. V'im lo tishma'uha b'mistarin, or tivken nafshi mipnei geva. Okay, another pasuk.
Actually, the other place is in Brachos, and he excuses himself by saying, "I'm your Talmud, and I have to learn."
I have to learn
I have to
everything,
learn
yeah.
everything from you.
Yeah.
What to do in the bedroom.
Sure.
The
Amar,
issue is that we had it before. See if you say words, you're not
Right.
even supposed to be marred by conversation
conversation with your wife, right? Amar Rav Shmuel Bar, right, let's go on. Ene Mishmei de Rav, in the name of Rav. Makom yesh lo l'kadosh baruch hu umistarim shmo. Hashem has a certain place and it's his hidden location. Mai mipnei gova, so what do we mean when we say gova outside? Right? Amar Rav Shmuel, says Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, mipnei ga'avatan she Yisrael Shenitla mehen v'natna lovdei kochavim. Because of the excessive pride of the Jewish people, it was taken and given to the idol worshippers. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani amar, mipnei ga'avata shel malchut shamayim, because of the pride in heaven. Umi'ika bichya kamei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and is there crying before the Kadosh Baruch Hu? Va'amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, ein atzivut lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. There should not be any sadness before the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because it says, Hod v'hadar lefanav, oz v'chedva bimkomo. Basically, you should be joyful before the Kadosh Baruch Hu.
So we point out the word mystarim, the English word mystery.
Is based on
something
that.
Which is something which is hidden,
From the Greek, probably.
probably from the Greek, but
Yeah.
actually from the Hebrew.
Lo kasha, not a problem. Ha bivate gavai, ha bivate barai. One is in terms of inside the house, one is outside the house. Okay, bivate barai lo, and inside the house, no, vahaktiv. But isn't it written? Vayikra Adonai Adonai tzvaot b'yom hahu lebechi ulemisped ulekarcha lechagor sak. Okay, talking about the mourning. Shani Chorban Beit Hamikdash. That's different because that deals with the base Hamikdash. Da'afilu Malachei Shalom Bachu. That even the angels cried. Shneamar Hein Arelim Tza'aku Chutza Malachei Shalom Mar Yivkayun. Okay, new piece now. V'dema Tidma V'tidar Einei Dema'a Ki Nishkach Eder Hashem. Okay, citing this pasuk. Okay, what happens? Amar Rabbi Elazar, Shlosh Dima'ot Halalu Lama. The fact that this pasuk says Dima, Tidma, V'tered Einai, it's with Dima, referring to tears 3 times. Why is that the case? Echat al Mikdash Rishon, one on the first temple, Ve'echat al Mikdash Sheni on the second temple, Ve'echat al Yisrael Shagalu Mimkomam, and the third that Israel, Jewish people, Abriut, was exiled. Ve'ikeda Amrei, and others say Echat al Bitul Torah, one on the loss of Torah study. Bishlem Elamanda Amar al Yisrael Shagalu. That's understandable when we say in regarding exile of the Jewish people. Hainu dichtiv, why? Because it's written, Ki nishba eder Hashem, as it said, as was captured or taken away, the congregation of Hashem. Elalamanda amar al bitul Torah, but regarding to the issue of nullification of Torah study, my ki nishba eder Hashem, how do we understand that regarding the capture of the congregation of the Jewish people? Kevan shegalu Yisrael mimkoman. Since the Jewish people were exiled from their place, ein lecha bitul Torah gadol mizeh. You have no greater nullification of Torah learning and study than that. Tanu Rabbanan. We will continue a little bit more real quick. Says the writer, Shlosha HaKadosh Baruch Hu boche alehen b'chol yom. There are 3 things that the Kadosh Baruch Hu cries about every day. 1, al she'efshar la'asok b'Torah ve'ino osek. One who is possible to indulge in Torah study but doesn't do so. The second, va'al she'efshar la'asok b'Torah ve'osek. On the one who it's not possible for them to indulge in Torah study but could do so. Va'al parnas hamidga'eh al tzibor. And on an authority that the rules greatly or grants it over the community. Lords it over. Thank you.
The second area, the one.
Va'al she'ef sharla
One who's
asok.
unable to engage in Torah study.
Right?
And who nevertheless does it.
Va'osek, and nevertheless try.
But does that mean like someone who's an Ovel, who's?
No,
because
no,
he can't and does it anyway?
no.
Beyond his pay grade.
Okay? It may be beyond his intellectual capacity, and therefore he truly doesn't come to understand, appreciate, and be able to practice appropriately. Okay?
Right.
All right? Rebbe Haiva Nakit Sefer Keynote. Okay, so Rebbe used to say,
There's an elucidating footnote on that, that.
on Steve's point.
B3, footnote 37.
Okay,
that
thank you.
questions, how can you say he's trying and that's not a good thing?
Okay.
And there's a pretty long footnote.
All right, we're sort of coming close to our time, so let's Kimat Elahai Psukim, when he got to that. Okay, Rebbe used to take a book of Kinos, in other words, Eicha, all right, V'kakari Begova, and he would read it out. Kimat Elahai Psukim, when he got to the following pasuk, Ishlich Mishamayim Eretz Nafal Min Yada, that pasuk, Amar Me'igra Ram Labira At Mikta, from the highest roof to the lowest pit. Rebbe v'Rebbe Chia. Now we're going to continue. What happens? Havu shakle va'azle ba'ocha. They were traveling along the road. Kimatu lahahumata. They came to a certain town. Amre, they said, iket surba mirabanan hacha. If there is a sage here in town, nazil v'nikabel ape. Let's go and greet him. Amre, they said, iket surba mirabanan hacha. There is a sage here. Umaor einayimhu, but he is blind. Amar le Rabbi Chia le Rebbe, and Rabbi Chia says to Rebbe, Tiv at, why don't you sit here? Okay, stay and relax. Lo tizalzel b'nesiuta, that it shouldn't be a insult to your status as nasi. Okay, that this person, okay, would not see you and recognize who you are and give you the proper kavod. That's how I understood it, right? Izil ana va'akbil ape. I will go, says Rabbi Chia, and I will greet him. But what did Rabbi do? Kafe. He grabbed hold of him, va'azil bahade, and he nevertheless went along with him. Okay, and I thought, kol kavod, Rebbe. Okay, right now what happened? Kihavu miftare mine. When they left that particular blind sage, Amarlahu, he said to them, Atem hikbaltem panim hanirim ve'inam ro'im. Okay, you were welcoming the face of one, okay, right, who could not be, it was not capable, okay, who he can be seen but is not capable of seeing, okay. Tisku lahakbil panim haroim ve'enam nir'in. Okay, may you also be welcome to greet the face of the one who sees but cannot be seen.
So he was saying, God bless.
God bless you, right? Right? Amarle. Okay, so Rebbe says to Rebbe here, Ichu, nevertheless, hashta mina aten mehai birchata. Okay, if you could have prevented me from such a bracha, amrule mema'in shma'ilach. Okay, is it possible that was this the case? Miparke the Rabbi Yaakov Shamiele, the Rabbi Yaakov Ish Kfar Chita Yahava, Makbil Ape de Rabbe Kol Yoma. And again, another story. Okay, again. From Rabbi Yaakov, he learned the following. Okay, the Rabbi Yaakov Ish Kfar Chite, Rabbi Yaakov from Chitin, the city, would visit his Rebbe every day. Kikash, when he became older, Amarle lo nitzta amar the lo yachil ma, that the master shouldn't bother him. In other words, it shouldn't be an effort. Okay, he shouldn't overdo the effort to try to visit him every day. Amarle, he said to him, Mi zutar my diktiv bahov barabanan. Is it only a small minor matter, the way the rabbis have written? It says, Vayechi od lenetzach lo yireh hashachat ki yireh chachamim yamutu. Okay, namely, uma haroeh chachamim b'mitatan yechir. Okay, in other words, the idea of being able to see one's Rebbe till the end. What about one who sees, according to the sages, who sees the death of a colleague? Okay, and they will continue to live. B'chayehin al echad kama v'chama, to visit him and see him and give him honor in life, how much more so? Rav Idi, Avua de Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, Rav Idi, the father of Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, Hava Ragil da Hava Azil Tzlata Yarche Beorcha. He would travel for 3 months to go see his Rebbe at the base midrash, V'chad Yoma B'bei Rav, right, and only spend 1 day there in the house, in the academy of Rav. Vahavukari le Rabbanan, and the other sages made fun of him, and they would call him Bar Be Rav Dechad Yoma, the 1-day student. Okay, what happens? Chalash da'ateh, he was very embarrassed about it. Okay, Kari anafshe, and he called himself Schok l're'ehu ehiyav gomer. They make fun of me because of this.
The whipping boy.
Right.
You know, what's called the-
Whipping boy, right? In other words, they made fun of him. They bullied him. They made fun of him. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan. Here again, Rabbi Yochanan to the rescue. B'matota minach lo ta'anish laho rabbanan. Okay, basically, in this situation, the rabbi shouldn't be mocking you, making fun of you.
He shouldn't curse them.
Okay, and he shouldn't say things against them either. Nafak Rabbi Yochanan lebei midrash v'darash, outward Rabbi Yochanan to the base midrash, and he gave the following statement. In other words, he expounded on a pasuk, va'oti yom yom yidrashun v'dat darchei yichaftzun, v'ki bayom dorshin, on the day that we expound, right? Ubalayla ein dorshinoto, and at night we don't expound. Elo lomarlach, to tell us, kol ha'osek b'torah, afilu yom echad b'shana, ma'ale alav hakatuv, ki'ilu asak kol hashana kula, v'chein b'midat puranut. Okay, on one who indulges in Torah study even 1 day, it's as if he studies throughout the whole year. And likewise, we say in regards to an issue of puranut, of difficulty, of problem, dichtiv v'mispar yamim asher tartem et haaretz, v'chi arba'im shana chatu, did they sin for 40 years? V'halo arba'im yom chatu, but it was really only 40 days that they wandered in the desert during that time. Ela lomar lach kol ha'over avera afilu yom echad b'shana ma'ale alav hakatuv ki'ilu avar kol hashana kula. Okay, so we're going to stop there and we'll pick up tomorrow. I'll just review that again. All right, so that can we say if one sins 1 time, it's as if it's over a lengthy time? The Gemara is going to respond to that.
Sudoku.
By the way, tomorrow is Purim Katan.
So wait until you can't score. It's gotta be dribbled rather than score.
Tomorrow or the day after?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay. You should borrow Marco.
I ask what's common between Purim Katan and Valentine's Day?
Well, that's what I say. This is your Mahava.
What is the connection?
Yeah, what's the connection?
What do you got?
What's the shape of a hamantashen and the shape of a heart?
Oh.
No, it's the shape of a head, of a hat.